Alright, this right here is the Realme GT Neo 3, and this is the brother, not the little, not sure if it's the little or the elder, but it's the brother OnePlus 10R. And of course, you all know that there are a lot of similarities between these two devices. But the question is, like, what's different? Should you pick the Realme GT Neo 3 over the OnePlus 10R? Or does the 10R manage to justify its premium price bump over the GT Neo 3? Well, that's what this video is all about. This is Mon from Guiding Tech Reviews, or GTR, and you're watching my in-depth comparison of the Realme GT Neo 3 versus the OnePlus 10R. Let's get started. Alright, so before we begin, let's just quickly address the similarities here because I won't be wasting much time on that. First, the display, it's the same. You get a 6.7-inch 120Hz Fluid AMOLED display with HDR10 Plus on both the devices. Though interestingly, both the GT Neo 3 and the OnePlus 10R don't even show Netflix on the Play Store. You have to sideload them, and even so, the HDR is not supported inside Netflix. Now, of course, this is something that will be fixed, but yeah, so far things are the same. Adding on to the display part, we have the stereo setups on both the devices, and they both sound about the same, so no complaints there either. As for the battery life, once again, it's the same. You can choose between 4500 mAh battery with the massive 150 watts of fast charging, or a bigger 5000 mAh battery with a comparatively slower 80 watts of fast charging. The charging speeds and battery life are pretty much the same, and adding on to the battery life, we have the software segment as well. You get RealmeUI 3.0 based on Android 12 against the OxygenOS 12.1, which is based on Android 12. Now essentially they are basically the same skin based out of ColorOS and a couple of features here and there, but essentially it's all the same. The one difference that the OnePlus 10R has is that you get comparatively less bloatware here, which kind of justifies the slight increase because obviously Realme is supported a lot by bloatware and ads, something that you do not get on the OnePlus 10R, at least right now. Now with that being said, it's not like the OnePlus 10R software experience is better. Well, it's better right now, but the point that I'm trying to make is that recently we've seen Realme do a much better job when it comes to updates. Realme's track record in terms of updates has been very good. A lot of their previous devices have already received the RealmeUI 3.0 update. In comparison, OnePlus's track record is very shabby. There are plenty of devices still running Android 11 based OxygenOS 11. So that is one thing to keep in mind if you're planning to invest in a smartphone for long-term usage. Alright, so now let's talk about the things that are different, starting off with the design. Now easily, they're both unique looking in their own ways, and I'm sure you'll get a design that suits your liking. Like the GT Neo 3 is for the people who want that flashy design, those racing stripes. I mean, I personally don't like this blue color, but if you're going to buy the GT Neo 3, get the white one with the black stripes. That looks awesome, and the design is also very good. Also, you get a curved back panel here, which personally I prefer because it really adds on to the grip. With that being said, if you are a fan of the flat edge designs, the OnePlus 10R is really nice to use. Obviously, with the flat edges, you get a symmetrical design that kind of looks boxy, but at the same time definitely looks a little bit premium. The matte finish here definitely attracts a lot of fingerprints, but it's not a big con per se. One complaint that I do have, however, is the fact that the OnePlus 10R does not have the alert slider. I mean, okay, I'll just say it outrightly, the OnePlus 10R feels like a good device in comparison to the GT Neo 3 as well. I mean, individually it's a good device if you remove the OnePlus logo from it. Because this does not feel like a OnePlus device to me. It does not scream that OnePlus kind of a design language. It does not feel as premium as OnePlus devices do. Now, don't get me wrong, it's still a good design, like individually, but definitely not something that OnePlus is known for. Other than that, the haptic feedback is pretty good on both, and they both have Gorilla Glass protection on both front and back, but there is no IP rating on either of them. Also get a dual SIM card slot on both the devices with no support for 3.5 headphone jack or a micro SD card slot. Next up, we have the cameras. Now, essentially, yeah, they have the same camera hardware, which basically is a 50 MP primary OIS sensor with an 8 MP ultrawide sensor and a 2 MP macro sensor, along with a 16 MP selfie shooter up front. Now, even though the ISPs are also the same because of the same processor, Realme and OnePlus have their own different styles of processing, and that is where the difference in terms of the camera performance comes. Let's take a look. So for the most part, the daylight shots look quite similar. However, when you move on to the HDR performance, the Neo 3 definitely has an edge over the OnePlus 10R. Now, one thing to note here is that both the phones tend to brighten the images a bit. Now, personally, I like that since it gives you more headroom for editing, and it's not like they're super exposed or anything. But even so, they're not closer to reality like most other phones do, or even most OnePlus devices do. Speaking of which, the OnePlus 10R also saturates colors quite often. Now, it's not like the Realme does not do it, but in comparison, the 10R saturation levels are a little bit higher. Once again, it's not super saturated or anything, but clearly noticeable in comparison to the GT Neo 3. Moving on to selfies, both the Neo 3 and the OnePlus 10R are equal for the most part, with very good edge detection, and the face also looks quite sharp. As for low light performance, without the night mode, they're both at par. However, when you turn on the night mode, the Neo 3 has a very slight edge. Now, that's not to say that the Neo 3 is a winner here, and I'm sure if you take like 15-20 different shots, the performance will pretty much be at par, so it's not a massive difference. The massive difference, however, comes in the form of videos. Moving on to selfie video, once again we have the GT Neo 3 which is on my left side and the OnePlus 10R which is on my right side. Interestingly, I'm noticing a bit of a lag on both the phones right now, but it's far more noticeable on the GT Neo 3. I mean, the lag is just super evident at the time of recording. It might be fixed at the processed video, but even at the time of recording, I can notice that the 10R is recording so much faster as compared to the GT Neo 3. Now, it's not to say that the 10R is a perfect shot, but in comparison, it's doing a better job. Moving on for rear videos, let's take a look. Alright, recording 1080p 60 fps footage from the GT Neo 3 which is on my left and the OnePlus 10R which is on my right. Slowly walking around, there's no option for stability mode to be enabled, but they both have OIS. Basically, it's the same camera setup, so it's technically going to be the same. Interestingly, the HDR performance on the 10R seems to be better than what the GT Neo 3 is. Actually, no, it's not better, because while the 10R is focusing on the highlights, the shadows are gone, whereas the GT Neo 3 focuses more on the shadows, but the highlights are blown away. So, alright, now we're back to focusing on the highlights. Both focusing on the highlights. Weird enough, but yeah, I think that's just a general issue of the ISP. It could be optimized, but it is what it is right now. So, in conclusion, for the camera department, for the most part, yes, they do perform similar. However, if I had to pick one between these two, I think I would slide with the Realme GT Neo 3 here, simply because the video performance is a tad bit better and there is a lot of consistency in the shots. The OnePlus 10R's selfie video is very bad, and other than that also, it does not offer any significant improvement over the GT Neo 3. Now keep in mind, that's a very personal preference. It's not to say that the OnePlus 10R's camera performance is bad, and the reason why I'm iterating on that point is that if you like the OnePlus 10R's design, don't let the camera be a deal breaker for you, because for 90% of the shots, the camera performance is the same between both the devices and most users won't really notice the difference. So if you like this design, then don't let that camera difference, that slight difference in camera, be a deal breaker. Moving on to performance. Now you get the same MediaTek Dimensity 8100 with UFS 3.1 on both the devices. So that's good. Now you would say, okay, that's similar. So what's the difference? Well, the difference is in terms of, synthetic benchmarks. See, day-to-day performance is the same across both the devices. You won't notice any differences. However, for synthetic benchmarks, interestingly, the Realme GT Neo 3 had better scores in comparison to the OnePlus 10R. Now, do keep in mind that both the tests were run with the high performance mode enabled. So, I am not sure why there's a big difference between both the devices. Now, one reason for that could be because we've seen OnePlus devices generally prioritize temperatures over performance, and even in our testing, the OnePlus 10R remained slightly cooler in comparison to the GT Neo 3. So that is one thing to keep in mind. As for gaming performance, Well, I can't wholeheartedly judge it because most of the top games do not run at the highest settings. Of course, the Dimensity 8100 is a powerful processor. I mean, in most ways, it's better than the Snapdragon 888. So I'm sure that both the devices will not disappoint you when it comes to gaming performance. However, I can't wholeheartedly judge them right now, so make sure that you subscribe to our channel for when we do a long-term review of both the devices. Which brings us to the pricing. Now, the GT Neo 3 is available for a starting price tag of 37,000 and then goes all the way up to 43,000. However, you get an introductory discount of up to 7,000 on SBI cards, which is amazing and brings the starting price down to just rupees 30,000. On the other hand, the OnePlus 10R starts at 39,000 and goes all the way up to 44,000, although you do get an introductory discount of 2,000 on ICICI cards. Alright, so which device to pick? I mean, it's quite clear if you have the 7,000 discount available, the GT Neo 3 is an easy recommendation over the OnePlus 10R. So that's sorted. I mean, I don't even need to get into the depths of it. The GT Neo 3 is a far better pick over the OnePlus 10R in every manner whatsoever when you have the introductory pricing. Now, once that pricing is gone, essentially the difference comes down to just 1,000 or 2,000 depending on the variant that you're going for. In that context, surprisingly, I think I would to some extent slide with the OnePlus 10R in the sense that the OS feels a little bit more premium because of the lack of bloatware, the lack of ads, and everything else is pretty much the same. So yeah, I mean, at least, even though this does not feel like a OnePlus device, I mean, I'll reiterate that this is not, it just does not look like a OnePlus device. This doesn't look that good, like as OnePlus devices usually do. But even so, if the difference is just of 1,000 or 2,000 rupees, I personally would prefer to pay extra to get a comparatively cleaner OS. Because let's be honest, everything else is the same. Also, adding on to one more thing, it's not just a price difference of 2,000 while keeping everything same. There is still a brand value of OnePlus that keeps it higher over Realme. So if you are someone who is buying a device to like flaunt in front of someone who, well, does not watch a lot of tech videos and does not know the reality behind brands, well then in that kind of a scenario, OnePlus is definitely a more premium brand in comparison to Realme. So that payoff of 2,000 rupees definitely seems worth it. And well, that was it. If you found this video helpful, make sure to let us know by giving us a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel for more awesome tech content. Till then, this is Juan from GTR and I'll see you in the next one.